Hey guys, this is Peter. I'm making this video as a kind of a brief introduction into some of the more basic mechanics of some firearms, and also maybe a little safety issues. I apologize in advance. I'm doing this kind of solo, so hence the bad angles and lighting, etc. So we'll be going over a couple firearms. I'm going to be doing covering 4 pistols. First, we'll be looking at a revolver. This is a Smith & Wesson 686. The caliber is either 38 Special or 357 Magnum. Next, we have a Glock 23. This is a 40 caliber pistol. This is what's known as a striker fired. And just so you know, I'm covering up the serial numbers of my firearms here. That way, those numbers don't go out in the internet. So that's Glock. Then this is a Beretta PX4. This is also 40 caliber. And lastly, a 6 Hour P220, which is a 45 caliber. And there are specific reasons why I chose these 4, and I'll go over those in just a moment. So first of all, because we want to make sure we are being safe, I'm going to demonstrate that these are all unloaded. Magazine is empty. Magazine is empty. And I chose this magazine because you can see through it. And you can see there are no rounds in here. Okay, so first things first, we are going to cover the bullet. Now there are 4 major parts of the bullet that you'll need to know. There's the casing. This is the brass portion right here. The bullet itself. This happens to be a full metal jacket. There's this part right here, the primer. That's the inner circle. And then the part you cannot see, which is a powder. So the way the bullet works is you have you have the hammer hit the primer ignites the powder will push out the bullet, and in that same action with the semi-automatics, it will also push back the slide of the gun. It will push back the slide of the gun, and there is a part here, the extractor, which will eject the shell or the casing, and in the action of moving back forward, it will load a new round into the barrel. Okay, so that's the bullet. Oh, and to make things easier, I should have So I'm going to be using what's called a snap cap. Snap cap is just a practice round. There's absolutely nothing in here that will ignite. It's just meant for practice, and this will help me illustrate how the mechanism works. So you'll see here's the round in the magazine. This is called a magazine, not a clip. And when you put it in, see what happens is, as this comes back, I don't know if you can see that, and it comes forward, it pushes that round into the barrel. And since I did it slowly, that's why it's kind of jammed here. if I put that back in and we go a little faster, you'll see it's ready to go. So what we have here is we have a bullet that is now chambered. That means you have a bullet in the barrel ready to go. That's chambered. The magazine is pulled out. This is still loaded. I don't know if you saw that pop out, but it popped out. Now we are empty. This is unloaded. Okay? So whenever someone hands you a firearm, and anytime you're looking at a firearm, first thing you do is always make sure that it's safe. So you're going to take out the magazine, and you're gonna rack the slide a few times. Make sure that you're pulling out whatever round is in the barrel. And then you're also going to visibly inspect that chamber to make sure it's empty, just in case for some reason the extractor didn't work. Now you know for a fact, you, the person holding the gun, you know for a fact this is unloaded. However, anyone who's looking at you may not know it's unloaded, so you always want to treat this as if it's loaded. Okay, so let's go over a couple parts of the gun itself. So we'll be back here at the Glock. So on the gun, you're going to have a magazine release, and you're going to have a slide release. Some other guns, you have some different features. We'll go over that in just a little bit. I'm going to cover this here. So you have the magazine release. This will let you take the magazine out. Glock magazines, by design, are actually a little harder to pull out. You have guns like the SIG, where, excuse me, oh, I'm not able to do that. Well, it'll actually kind of push itself out. And then you have the slide release, which you always see in the movies and TV show. That's how they're, gosh, it's really hard to do on your, when you're holding it this way. That's what gets the slide to go forward. You may see things like this. This is kind of more of a, this is for taking down the gun when you're taking it apart to clean. That's not something I'm going to cover here. So this is striker fired. With striker fire, that means the hammer mechanism is all internal. There is no external hammer. With a striker fire, that also means that your trigger pull is consistent every single time. Every time you pull the trigger, it will always be the same amount of pressure to depress, no matter what. You'll also notice that when I'm holding the guns, I don't have my trigger finger in the trigger housing, because you want to be safe. Now the SIG has an external hammer. So you have what's called single action, double action with these hammers. Single action, or let's go over double action. Double action, and gun is safe. Double action is when you're pulling the trigger and it brings the hammer both back and forward. This is double action. When you have the hammer already cocked back, this is single action. Same thing with the revolver. Double action, single action. Now with the double action and single action, the the double action is always going to be a longer pull and takes more force, whereas the single is very light in comparison. So what happens is some guns will not have an external safety. I'll go over that. Like this gun, this one does not have an external safety. And part of the safety mechanism is that double action pull, because it takes so much more effort to get that double action in. Some consider that a safety mechanism. Now what happens is when you are firing, you have that first action, the slide's going to come back, it's going to come forward, and it's going to have that hammer already back for single action. So if you are firing straight, that first trigger pull will be the hardest one, but then as a result of it, every single action will be single, and hence easier. So the reason why I have this one out is because this gun has a decocker. What this does, let me show you, is it allows you to safely bring the hammer back down without having to worry about inadvertently pulling the trigger, because it is a lighter pull. With the Glock, because it's striker and double action constantly, it's always going to be same pull. You have no decocking mechanism. With guns like the Beretta, your safety, so the hammer's back. This is back from earlier when I was showing that the gun was empty. When you have the safety will automatically decock that hammer. And you'll notice that when the safety is down, I can't pull that hammer back, whereas if the safety is disengaged, the hammer goes back. Again, and on this gun, we have the safety, we have the slide release, and we have the magazine release right there. Now revolvers are a little different in that revolvers are going to be like the Old West, where you have to actually hold on to the hammer, depress the trigger, and ease it back yourself. Of course, you want to be safe with this. Don't want to be too showy with that. Okay. Now with the, I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's pretty much it. So while I have the revolver out, there's something that you commonly see in the movies where they, spin the cylinder and then they flip it back. Not a wise thing to do. You have a lot of mass here, and you have this little tiny piece right there that will stop it. So if you're swinging this and you have all this mass spinning, and then you're also adding onto it the action of flipping it back, then you're putting a lot of stress on here. You're potentially breaking something that, well, you really don't want to break. Okay. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything covered. If you have any questions, send me a message, let me know. All right, see you guys later.